They took my pension, my house, my dignity. Even convinced my own daughter I was a liability to her political career. My name is Robert Hayes, and at 63 years old, I learned that sometimes the people who destroy you are actually leading you to discover who you really are. I spent 37 years as a defense contractor engineer. Specialized in radar systems, mostly classified work. The kind of job where you can't tell your wife what you did that day, even after 25 years of marriage. Catherine never seemed to mind. She was busy climbing her own ladder, working as chief of staff for Senator William Morrison. By the time I was 60, she was practically running his office. Our daughter Jennifer followed her mother into politics. Campaign manager for a congressman in Virginia. Smart kid, Harvard educated, always knew how to work a room. I was proud, even if I didn't always understand the world she lived in. The problem started when Morrison decided to run for president. Catherine came home late one night, poured herself a scotch instead of her usual wine. That's when I knew something was different. "Robert," she said, not looking at me. "The campaign needs to vet everyone in the inner circle. That includes spouses." I shrugged. "I've had security clearances my whole career. Nothing to worry about." She finally met my eyes. "That's the problem. Some of your clearances, the ones from the 80s, they're asking questions we can't answer." "Can't answer or don't want to answer? Does it matter?" Apparently it did. Senator Morrison was positioning himself as a transparency candidate. Clean background, clean team, clean families. My sealed military records from 1983 to 1985 were a problem. Never mind that they were sealed for national security reasons. Never mind that I'd served my country with distinction. In politics, mysterious is the same as guilty. "They want you to request the records be unsealed," Catherine said. "You know I can't do that. Those operations are still classified." "Then we have a problem." The "we" turned into "you" pretty fast. Within 2 weeks, Catherine moved into a Psy apartment in Georgetown, said she needed space, said the campaign was demanding, said we'd work it out after the primary. I believed her. 62 years old, and still naive enough to believe my wife of 25 years. The divorce papers came on a Tuesday, hand-delivered by a process server who looked apologetic. The petition claimed irreconcilable differences, but the attached affidavits told a different story. Catherine's lawyer had statements from Jennifer, from neighbors, from Catherine's co-workers, all painting me as paranoid, secretive, emotionally unavailable. One affidavit claimed I'd become obsessed with conspiracy theories about the government. My security clearances, my classified work, my inability to discuss my job all reframed as mental instability. I hired a lawyer with what was left in my personal account. Frank Moretti, former JAG officer. He looked over the paperwork and swore under his breath. "They're going nuclear," he said. "Asset freeze, restraining order, psychiatric evaluation requirement. Robert, this isn't just a divorce. This is a coordinated attack." "Why?" "Because Senator Morrison is going to announce his VP pick next month. Your wife is on the short list. They need her background spotless. That means you need to disappear." The hearing was a formality. Judge Patricia Chen barely looked at my evidence before ruling. Catherine got the house in Bethesda, the vacation property in Rehoboth, both cars, and 70% of my pension. The pension I'd earned over 3 decades. "Mr. Hayes has access to government retirement benefits," the judge said, as if that somehow justified stripping me of everything I'd worked for. "Mrs. Hayes has built her career supporting his classified work, sacrificing her own advancement opportunities." Frank started to object. I put my hand on his arm. The room was full of people in expensive suits, all watching. This wasn't about justice. This was about making me go away quietly. I signed the papers, took the 30% pension, watched Catherine walk out with her attorney, already on the phone, probably calling the senator's office with the good news. Jennifer was waiting in the hallway. My daughter, 28 years old and looking at me like I was a stranger. "Dad, this is for the best." "Is it? Mom needs a fresh start. So do you. Maybe now you can finally talk about what you did. Get some help." "Help for what?" "For whatever's keeping you locked in the past." She walked away before I could answer. Before I could tell her that some things stay locked because opening them would endanger people. Before I could explain that silence isn't the same as sickness. I moved into a extended stay hotel off Route 50. $600 a week for a room with a kitchenette and free breakfast. Ate a lot of hard-boiled eggs and instant oatmeal. Watched my bank account drain. The 30% pension barely covered rent. When I applied for jobs, my resume raised questions I couldn't answer. 37 years in defense contracting, but I couldn't provide references because half my supervisors were bound by the same secrecy I was. Companies wanted details. I couldn't give them. 3 months later, the extended stay manager knocked on my door. "Mr. Hayes, we need to talk about your account." I was 2 weeks behind. They gave me until Friday. Friday came. I loaded what I could fit into my 2004 Honda Civic and drove to a Walmart parking lot. 63 years old, sleeping in my car, showering at a Planet Fitness I could barely afford. Catherine made the news that week. Senator Morrison announced his VP pick at a rally in Philadelphia. Catherine stood behind him, beaming. The chyron on CNN read, "Morrison picks veteran campaign strategist Catherine Hayes as running mate." Not Catherine Morrison, she kept my name. Probably focus grouped better, more relatable than her maiden name, Wellington. I watched the coverage on my phone, sitting in my car, eating a cold hamburger from McDonald's. My daughter was in the background of the shot, clapping, crying happy tears. 2 months in the car, Virginia summer turning into fall. I'd park in different lots to avoid trouble. Library parking lot during the day, Walmart at night. Sometimes behind a 24-hour diner where they didn't seem to mind. November hit, and the cold came. I couldn't run the car all night for heat, couldn't afford the gas. Started wearing all my clothes to bed, layered up like a kid going sledding. That's when I saw the sign for the VA hospital. Veterans welcome, mental health services, housing support, medical care. I'd avoided VA facilities my whole life. Didn't want to be in the system, didn't want any connection to my service record. But at 63, sleeping in a Walmart parking lot, pride seemed like a luxury I couldn't afford. The waiting room was crowded. Veterans of all ages, most of them younger than me. Iraq, Afghanistan. I was Vietnam era, but I'd never seen combat. My war was fought in basements and laboratories, developing systems that kept pilots alive. "Mr. Hayes?" The intake coordinator was a woman in her 50s. Name tag reading Gloria Mendoza, MSW. She had the tired eyes of someone who'd heard every story twice. "I need to register for services," I said. She pulled up a form on her computer. Branch and years of service? Air Force. 1,979 to 1,985. Her fingers paused on the keyboard. She looked at me more carefully. "Robert Hayes?" "Yes." "Date of birth?" I told her. The 12th of November, 1961. She stopped typing entirely, stared at her screen for a long moment. Then she stood up, closed the door to her office, and locked it. "Mr. Hayes, I need you to stay calm." My heart started pounding. "What's wrong?" She pulled down the blinds on the office window, sat back down and typed something into her computer. A different screen, not the standard intake form. This one had red borders and a security clearance warning. "How long have you been in the area?" "I've lived here most of my life." "Why?" "How long have you been unhoused?" 2 months. "What's this about?" Gloria reached for her phone. Dialed a number from memory, not from the directory. "This is Mendoza, at DCVA Medical. Patient code Uniform 77 Bravo." She listened. "Yes, I'm certain. He just walked in." Another pause. "Understood. I'll keep him here." She hung up. Looked at me with something between pity and awe. "Mr. Hayes, there are people who've been trying to locate you for 40 years. What are you talking about? I need you to wait here. Someone's coming to talk to you. Someone from Defense Intelligence. I'm just trying to get housing support." "I know, but your service record, the sealed portion. There's been an active search protocol attached to it since 1985. If you entered any federal system, medical, legal, social services, it would trigger a notification." "Why?" "I don't have that clearance. But the flag on your file says you were part of something called Project Copper Shield. The name hit me like cold water. I hadn't heard those words in 40 years. Gloria saw my reaction. You remember. I can't talk about it. I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you that whatever you were part of, they've been looking for you. Or someone like you. The protocol says 43 individuals were involved. Only 12 have been accounted for. Accounted for how? Some dead, some located and interviewed, some still classified. You're number 13. 20 minutes later, 2 people in dark suits arrived. A man and a woman, both probably in their 40s, both with the calm intensity of career intelligence officers. The man showed me credentials, Defense Intelligence Agency. Mr. Hayes, I'm Agent Chen. This is Agent Morrison. I almost laughed at the name. Like the senator? No relation. Agent Morrison's voice was all business. Mr. Hayes, we need to talk about your service with the Air Force Research Laboratory from 1983 to 1985. I can't. Yes, you can. Project Copper Shield was declassified 3 months ago. Partially. The portions that don't compromise current operations. Agent Chen pulled out a tablet, showed me a document. Department of Defense letterhead. Official declassification memo dated August 15. Why now? I asked. Because 12 of your colleagues have developed the same rare neurological condition. 6 are already dead. 3 more are declining rapidly. The Pentagon needs to know if there's a connection to the project. What condition? Early onset dementia with unusual markers. Cognitive decline that doesn't match Alzheimer's or any known pattern. DoD thinks it might be related to exposure during the project. We worked with radar systems, low-frequency electromagnetic research. We know, and we also know that the safety protocols back then were inadequate. They need to screen the remaining participants. They need to know if there's going to be a wave of medical cases. They need to prepare. Agent Morrison leaned forward. Mr. Hayes, you're entitled to compensation. Every Project Copper Shield participant is eligible for disability benefits, medical monitoring, and retroactive hazard pay. We're talking about approximately $40,000 per year, backdated to 1985. I did the math in my head. 40,000 times 40 years. $1.6 million. Plus ongoing medical care and priority treatment at Walter Reed. But we need you to submit to a full medical evaluation. Neurological screening, blood work, MRI, the complete workup. I looked at Gloria, who was still sitting at her desk, watching this unfold. Is this real? She nodded. The flag on your file is legitimate. I've only seen 3 of these in 15 years working VA intake. It's real. Agent Chen handed me a business card. We can start the paperwork today. Get you into temporary housing while we sort out the back pay. But Robert, we need to move fast. The other participants who've been tested are showing signs. If you have early indicators, we need to catch them now. I feel fine. So did the others. Until they didn't. They took me to Walter Reed that afternoon. Not the public hospital, the research wing, rooms that looked like hotel suites, staff who treated me like I mattered. The neurological exam took 6 hours. Cognitive tests, reflex tests, balance tests, memory tests. They drew what felt like a gallon of blood, scanned my brain 3 different ways. Dr. Sarah Kim, the neurologist, showed me the results 2 days later. Mr. Hayes, you're one of the lucky ones. No markers, no indicators. Your cognitive function is above average for your age. Then why did the others get sick? We don't know yet. Maybe genetic factors. Maybe you had less exposure. Maybe you wore your protective equipment more consistently. She smiled. Or maybe you're just lucky. Doesn't feel lucky. You're alive and healthy. That's luckier than you think. The back pay came through in 3 weeks. $1.6 million minus taxes. They deposited it into a new bank account, helped me set up financial management, connected me with a VA benefits counselor. The counselor's name was Marcus Thompson, a Vietnam vet who'd spent 40 years helping other vets navigate the system. Robert, you need to understand something. This money isn't charity. You earned it. You did work that mattered, work that was dangerous, work that your country needed. The fact that they couldn't talk about it for 40 years doesn't make it less valuable. I know. Do you? Because you're looking at me like you don't deserve this. He wasn't wrong. 63 years old, suddenly wealthy, and all I felt was tired. What do I do now? What do you want to do? I thought about Catherine on CNN, waving from a rally stage. Thought about Jennifer, who hadn't called in 6 months. Thought about the house in Bethesda that I'd paid for, that I'd lost in a courtroom. I want them to know they didn't break me. Marcus nodded slowly. Then you need to tell your story, but strategically. Meaning? Meaning, you don't go to them. You let them come to you. The Washington Post ran the story 3 weeks later. Homeless veteran discovers $1.6 in classified back pay. The article detailed Project Copper Shield, my decorated service, my wrongful divorce, my 2 months living in my car, and it mentioned Catherine, not by name, but by title. Hayes's ex-wife, now a vice presidential candidate, could not be reached for comment on whether she was aware of her former husband's classified service or his subsequent homelessness. The story went viral, not because of me, but because of the election. Senator Morrison was polling well. Any scandal touching his ticket was news. Jennifer called that night. I almost didn't answer. Dad, I just saw the article. Did you? I didn't know. About the classified work. About Project Copper Shield. You never told us. I couldn't. It was sealed. Mom said you were paranoid. She said you made up stories about secret projects. She lied. Silence on the line. Then, she's not taking my calls either. Not since the story broke. Her campaign manager said they're managing the narrative. That's what you do in politics, isn't it? Manage narratives? Dad, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. Should have asked more questions. Yes, you should have. More silence. Are you okay? The article said you were living in your car. I was. Now I'm in an apartment. A real one. Fully furnished. I'd like to see you. If you'll let me. I looked out my window at the Arlington skyline, lights coming on as evening fell. 40 years of silence, 40 years of locked doors, and suddenly the world wanted to hear my story. Sunday dinner, I said. There's a steakhouse in Clarendon. 7 o'clock. Your mother can find out about your life through the campaign trail from now on. Senator Morrison's campaign imploded slowly, then all at once. The Post story triggered other investigations. Turned out, Catherine had known about my sealed records. She'd used her security clearance to access them during the divorce. Federal offense. Unauthorized disclosure of classified information to her legal team. The senator withdrew from the race in January. Catherine resigned. No criminal charges, political favors were called in, but her career was finished. Jennifer and I have dinner every Sunday now. She left politics, works for a nonprofit that helps veterans transition to civilian life. Says she's trying to fix what she helped break. I see veterans at Walter Reed twice a month. Volunteer work, talking to guys coming back from deployments, helping them understand their benefits, their rights. Marcus Thompson taught me the system. Now I teach others. The house in Bethesda sold last month. Catherine had to liquidate assets for legal fees. I didn't buy it back. Didn't want it. Too many ghosts. Instead, I bought a small place in Falls Church. 2 bedrooms. One for me, one for when Jennifer visits. She's got a boyfriend now. Talks about maybe getting married someday. Asked if I'd walk her down the aisle. I said yes. On the condition that she never lies to protect someone else's ambition, she promised. I think about those 2 months in my car a lot. November cold, sleeping in layers, eating McDonald's dollar menu, 63 years old and invisible, nobody looking, nobody caring. But I wasn't invisible. Somewhere in a defense intelligence database, my name had a flag. People were searching. Not because I was important, but because I was part of something that mattered. The electromagnetic research we did in Project Copper Shield, it's in every stealth aircraft now, every radar system, every defense network. 40 years later, it's still saving lives. Catherine thought she was destroying me. She thought taking my house, my pension, my daughter would make me disappear. She was wrong. You can't destroy a man by taking his things. You can only destroy him by making him believe he has no value. For 2 months, I almost believed it. Almost accepted that at 63, after a lifetime of service, I was worth nothing more than a parking spot at Walmart. Then Gloria Mendoza looked at her computer screen and saw the flag. We've been searching for you for 40 years. Not for Robert Hayes, the homeless veteran. For Robert Hayes, the engineer who helped build the invisible shield. I'd spent 40 years staying silent to protect national security. And national security had spent 40 years trying to find me. The irony is perfect. Catherine wanted me erased from her narrative. Instead, my story erased her from relevance. Jennifer wanted me to get help, to talk about the past. Now she listens to veterans tell their stories, learning what service really means. I don't hate them. Hate takes energy I don't have anymore. I pity them. They thought power came from ambition, from climbing ladders, from managing narratives. They never understood that real power comes from doing work that matters, even when no one's watching, even when you can't talk about it, even when it costs you everything. My name is Robert Hayes. I'm 63 years old. I spent 2 months homeless because people who loved me decided I was inconvenient, and those 2 months taught me something those people will never learn. You can lose your house, your marriage, your daughter's respect, but you can't lose your value, because value isn't given by other people. It's created by the work you do when no one's applauding. The electromagnetic research I did in 1984 is still classified in parts, still protecting pilots, still saving lives. Catherine's political career is over. Jennifer's working to rebuild what she helped destroy, and I'm teaching veterans that their service matters. Even decades later, even in silence. They tried to make me disappear. Instead, they revealed who I'd been all along. Not a liability, not a problem to manage, not paranoid or obsessed. A warrior who served in silence. And warriors don't disappear. We just wait for the mission to be declassified. Mine was, 40 years later, but it was. Now I spend my Sundays with my daughter, my Tuesday afternoons at Walter Reed, and my evenings in my small apartment in Falls Church, looking at the city lights and thinking about the invisible shields that keep us all safe. Catherine lives in her sister's basement now. Lost the house, lost the career, lost the narrative she spent 25 years building. I could call her, could offer help, but I won't. Not out of cruelty, out of truth. She needs to learn what I learned in that Walmart parking lot. That when you strip away everything, the title, the house, the status, the power, what remains is who you actually are. And if there's nothing left when the titles are gone, then there was never anything there to begin with. My daughter learned it. Took her longer, but she learned. Catherine's still learning. Might take her the rest of her life. That's not my problem anymore. My problem is showing up for Sunday dinner, listening to Jennifer talk about her nonprofit's latest success, planning for the future instead of managing narratives about the past. My problem is meeting with veterans who feel invisible, who wonder if their service mattered, who can't talk about what they did and worry that means it didn't count. I tell them about Project Copper Shield. I tell them about Gloria Mendoza seeing the flag on her screen. I tell them, someone's been searching for you. You just don't know it yet. Your work mattered. Even if you can't talk about it, even if no one applauded, even if your own family didn't understand, it mattered. And I watch their faces change. Watch them sit up straighter. Watch them remember who they were before the world told them they were invisible. That's my mission now. Not electromagnetic research, not radar systems, not classified operations. Just reminding warriors that they're still warriors, even decades after the battle, even when no one remembers to say thank you. The Department of Defense sent me a letter last month. Official commendation for my service on Project Copper Shield. 40 years late, but it arrived. I framed it, hung it in my apartment, right next to a photo of Jennifer and me at Sunday dinner. 2 pictures. One of service to my country, one of service to my family. Both earned, both valuable, both worth the wait. Catherine would have hung a picture of herself with the senator. That's the difference. She built her life on proximity to power. I built mine on the work itself. Her foundation crumbled when the powerful fell. Mine stood because the work was real. I'm 63 years old. I've been married, divorced, successful, homeless, invisible, and vindicated. And the lesson I learned is simple. The people who try to destroy you are sometimes giving you the gift of resurrection. They strip away everything that isn't essential. And what remains, if you're lucky, if you've lived right, is something worth keeping. Something that can't be taken in a courtroom or a campaign office. Something that lasts 40 years in a classified database, waiting to be recognized. I'm Robert Hayes. I built invisible shields that still protect people today. And no one, not my ex-wife, not a senator, not a biased judge, can ever take that away. That's the story I tell the veterans at Walter Reed. That's the message my daughter is learning to share with her clients. That's the truth Catherine is avoiding in her sister's basement. You can lose everything and still have value. Because value isn't in what you own. It's in what you built when no one was watching.